Let me get in the zone for top 4. Rushmore, hanging out with Andy and Captain Kirk. You know we got a few things to tell you about these games that we played when we was a pro in the ground and we're coming up stunting. I want to play all the games from nothing when I used to go in the arcade, and when my mama got paid, that's when I was able to go and play, cause I didn't have no dollars of my own. I was just a peon, like a pea in the ground, and I didn't have nothing. And I'm clowning on these games, playing Mario Kart. Tell you how I feel when I'm playing Paul Bart Mall Cop, when I had to go and run away cause I was stealing other kids' quotas. That was before Christ. I was stealing their quarters, not after. Like, look, don't. When I was a kid, I didn't have. I definitely would. This is the Rushmore Show. Your top 4 and nothing more.
Welcome to the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4 and nothing more. Kirk, man, we're in this week 2 of our video game week. Last week we had Paul again with us. Hey, 2 weeks in a row we had Paul
back to back
talking about our video game characters. So we are here in Video Game Month. It's been a blast so far. You guys are killing it in the comments. You guys are just having a blast, just like we are with video games. Obviously, we love them so much. Kirk, how are you feeling so far with this month?
Well, man, it's Video Game Month. You guys already know how much I love games. Grew up wanting to be in video game design. Almost went to school for that. And so just got a big love for games. I'm an old school gamer, obviously. But, man, I love this topic. I love the topic of going back and checking out some arcade classics and just going through the list and seeing what we like, man. But, hey, man, we got somebody on this week, right? And, man, it's one of our favorite people. Andy, who we got on today?
So we are inviting for the first time on the Rushmore Show, welcoming him to the community. We've got our good friend Max Parish. Welcome to the Rushmore Show.
What's up, Max? Welcome
man,
to the
what's
show,
going on, guys? Yeah, thank you for having me, man. It's almost like you guys have done this before. You know, the intro was amazing. You guys rock. Glad to be here. Can't wait to talk some games.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
So we're excited to have you here. Max is in youth ministry here locally by me over here. It's kind of how we all met, through ministry, through camps, conferences, all kinds of fun stuff. And finally excited, man, to get you here on the show. We love chatting it up at camp and all that kind of stuff. We figured, hey, it would be a natural fit for you to come and hang out with us on the Rushmore Show. So, Max, tell us a little bit about kind of like your fandom of video games. Like, where does it start with you as a kid? Like, what do you love about video games?
So my fandom of video games starts with Mega Man 2. I just had a friend. He had a regular Nintendo, and we go over there, and first game and one of the only games he had was Mega Man 2. And we'd slide that puppy in, dude, and just like, bro, play until we just couldn't anymore, till his grandma would kick me out the house. It was just an amazing time. And so Mega Man was like ingrained in me. You know, that's kind of where the love for video games started, with the old blue boy.
There it is.
Boy, blue.
Look at Kirk showing it off. Kirk's got that collection behind him, rocking the Mega Man 2.
Hey, fun thing, man. We were going to do music. We were going to do a music. And obviously, man, YouTube hits us up with all those copyrights when music comes around. But I remember when I was younger, when this game came out, I was working at KB Toys. My nephew, 5 years younger than me.
Oh, showing your beard. I mean, your age there.
Yep. So that was in the 90s. Yep, that was in the 90s. I was hanging out. Yep. And so my nephew, who's 5 years younger than me and him playing that game. And whenever that song would come on, he would get on my back and we would dance. Like, it was the funnest thing. I remember it distinctly. Like, as soon as like, it was on. It was on. But I love that game. I love Mega Man, man. If you watched last week, spoiler alert, he's on my list. So
There you go. There you
awesome.
go. There you go. Awesome. So, hey, look, we are going to get into it today. And today's Rushmore topic is all about the arcade. So we're going to get into our top 4, our Mount Rushmore of arcade games. How you feeling about that one, Kirk and Max?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a really big we're going to have a big bunch of differences. I don't know how many Crushmores we're going to have here. There's a couple age gaps, 1, and 2.
A couple, huh?
2, I think that we all like different
100
kinds of games. So I think that this might be maybe, I don't know. We might go through a clean sweep without a single Crushmore.
I don't think we've had a week. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe like Christmas movies way back.
No, Christmas movies we matched too. I think maybe the intro music one, our episode 1.
Yeah, so like it's been a minute since we haven't had a Crushmore. So let's see.
This is episode 24, so it's been probably almost 23 episodes since not matching one. I don't know. We might still get one. We might still get one.
Well, anyway, so hey, without any further ado, without making our fans wait any longer, let's get into our Rushmore of arcade games. All right, Rushmore, it's that time to get into our arcade games. Andy, tell me your Rosie, but first, show us the criteria that you went through as you were researching to pick these games, how much research did you do or whatever, and then kind of lay it out for us in the direction we're going with your mountain today. Yeah, so this is probably the simplest one criteria-wise. It was definitely difficult to eliminate a lot of the ones that I wound up eliminating. I'm hoping that many of them make y'all's Rushmore, so at least they get represented. But my criteria, simple. Did I play it in an arcade? Period. That's it. Like if I walked into an arcade, these were the games that I was going to absolutely hit up. I mean, there's no doubt I was going to waste a lot of quarters on these games. It's at the bowling alley. I got my nachos and I'm hitting up these games, right? Like, what am I doing? And that's really it. Like, there was a lot of games that, like I mentioned, I had to eliminate. There's a lot of games that, honestly, when I would go into an arcade, and even if I go in now, that I'm just not like drawn to, right? So they just didn't make my list. But that's it. It's pretty simple. This is one of the first lists also that I didn't go to Google just to confirm things. Like, I had it preset in my mind, like what was going to be on my list, right? I kind of had a rotation of games that I definitely cycled through. And it starts with my Rosie, my number 4. I really struggled with not moving this up higher, but I think just making it in the top 4 regardless. These top 4 are great. I'm playing these all the time. My number 4, my Rosie, is WrestleMania. The WrestleMania arcade game. Bro, let me tell you, when you could pick 8 characters, number 1, I'm always the Undertaker. I was always the Undertaker. That's who I'm picking. But you would like choke slam them, and then like bones and bats would come out of the ring and stuff.
Dude, it was so good.
Remember that? So then you got him. What? Who else? You had Razor Ramon. You had Shawn Michaels. You had Doink. You had Bret. Was Bret Hart in that one? Like,
I think he was.
You had a lot of these.
I remember the style of that game being very cartoony, and it was really cool.
Right. So I just love that game. I there's so many times where it's like, that's just, again, like, to my criteria. I remember walking in, and if the arcade had WrestleMania, I was playing it. It was going to happen. It didn't matter. Like, I wasn't picking one over that one. I was always going to go WrestleMania. I loved it. You know, obviously we talked a few weeks back about like our fandom of wrestling. And we did have a Rushmore of tag teams a while back, but I just loved wrestling. You know, again, that age where I'm like playing in the arcades and stuff was still in that time where I was a big fan of wrestling. Anytime I could get my hands on the classic WrestleMania arcade game, it was happening. Anyway, I love it so much. It's my Rosie. What do you guys think about WrestleMania? What you guys' thoughts?
I can't hate on that one. There are a bunch of fighting games that I would deem being in the top 15, 20 games. WrestleMania wasn't one that I thought of immediately, and you've reminded me of how much fun it was and how how many quarters I wasted in the mall just slamming it down to try and see, those guys on the screen. Because I loved wrestling big time at the time that game was out. Was Bam Bam Bigelow on that?
Bam Bam Bigelow was on there. And then who's the big sumo guy? Oh my gosh. Yokozuna was on it too. So, man, you could play as all these guys. It was like Mortal Kombat.
Don't disrespect Mortal Kombat.
No, man, but hear me out. You like the MK1, like you had 8 people you could pick between. That was it, right? Like you only had that. It was very
very thin.
Right.
The game was
wasn't too much. There wasn't too much that was happening with it. But dude, it was exciting. I loved it.
Dude, that's an excellent choice. That's an excellent choice. Is that way too far before your time there, Max? I'm hearing.
Well, I just, wrestling. And I'm probably gonna upset a lot of your fans here. Dude, but I think I'd rather eat an old apple core than watch an episode of wrestling. I mean, I'd rather.
Hot take.
I'd rather deal with constipation.
We ain't in a hot take segment yet.
Well, I just look that wrestling's hot trash is really.
My gosh.
Oh my goodness.
You need to undertake that pick and put it somewhere else.
Literally 5 minutes before this, I was playing wrestling on this floor.
I bet you were. No doubt. No doubt.
Well, hey, look, Max is already the comments are gonna be lighting up just because of Max. But I'm so glad we brought you on here for that. So,
I love these kind of guys because we need the other perspective. The guys that don't know anything.
So what do you mean by these kind of guys?
All right, man. So let's keep this thing PG, and we're going to keep moving.
All right, Kirk. Let's get your Rosie. But what's your criteria?
Not too much different. Had to play it in an arcade. I right off the bat, I kind of thought these are games that I just shoveled a lot of quarters down. Right, tokens, quarters, whatever it may be. But I really was thinking, I love video games. I love collecting video games. And if I was to actually own an arcade cabinet now, right now, they have the refurbished or renewed smaller arcade games, right? But I was thinking if I actually had some of the original ones and I set it up in my basement, what were the 4 I just had to have? And I really thought of the number one thing, replayability, obviously, is one.
Yeah,
but number 2, to actually have an arcade in my house, it would have to be something I like to play with my friends, right? Something that had multiple players or something like that. And just really enjoyable. So all of them are going to bring back nostalgia. All of my games were probably 90s era. And that's okay. So here it is. Rosie is going to be none other than NBA Jam.
Hey, baby.
Let's go. NBA Jam is going to be my Rosie. I love this game. I love playing with 4 people. I love playing with 2 people. I love playing by myself. This is an amazing game. It was 2-on-2 basketball. They didn't have all the licenses and all the likenesses. So some of the unfortunate things was Michael Jordan wasn't in it. Gary Payton wasn't in it. There were several other players that couldn't be in it because they owned their own likeness. So I can remember distinctly as a kid, I would play, at least in the arcade game, I would probably play with either the Jazz or because it was Malone and Stockton, or I'd play with the Magic, which was Shaq, and a very young Shaq and Scott Skiles. Barkley was in it, David Robinson, Akeem Olajuwon. But I remember this particular game, they brought in Alonzo Mourning, and that made me play with the Hornets forever when it came to home console because it was Grandmama, Larry Johnson, and Alonzo Mourning. But the game was really fast-paced. He's heating up. I still say that when I'm outside playing basketball with Cannon and I hit a couple shots. He's on fire.
Must be the shoes.
Oh man. And then you had all the super codes. You could get like Bill Clinton dunking the ball and all kinds of craziness. But I love this game. It was really cool. And I'll be honest, the only game that I really thought about interchanging it with was made by the same company. And it was a football game, and it was NFL Blitz. So that was the only two when it was sitting there like, am I going to go with the football or the basketball? But I remember just so many quarters at the mall just playing this game. What do you guys think about that one? What if NBA Jam?
NBA Jam is great. It might be one of the best. For those that have played it, they know this. The opening credit, like the opening of the game, when it's the static and it's and it brings the jock jams in and everything. I love it. I love it. And then it's got like the noises that it would make when you would switch, like boom, boom. It was like I don't know why. Like there's so many memories of that game. So I didn't play that game as much in the arcade. It did not, and I'm just spoiler, it won't be on my list, but only because I didn't play it in the arcade. Now I had it on Super Nintendo and I played that.
Oh yeah, you had this jam.
I had it all played. It
That's
all the
this
time.
one. This is the Super Nintendo version.
Right,
Yeah,
right. So, but great pick, nonetheless. Great
Very
pick.
cool,
Love
man.
NBA Jam.
Max, what you think about that?
Yeah, great. I'm not just trying to be controversial, but I don't know how you picked it over NFL Blitz.
Yeah, that's tough. That's tough. Yeah, that's
and you want to talk about switching, like, screens or different like selections.
NFL Blitz was I have that game too.
I know. Yeah.
I have it up here for PlayStation. Yeah, Blitz
down, up, up. Yeah,
awesome.
What was it? Down, up, left, up, ZB, start, right? Or no, it was ZZZ. It was ZZZ, right? Or on the thing, ZZZ, BBA up, ZZ, B left, BBA, and it was like what was it? It was all turbo, fast team turbo, and what was?
Dude, that game
it was
so
3,
cool.
2, 1 up. 0, 3, 2 left. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. But NBA Jam is great. Great game. Great pick.
Yeah. The only negative thing I could say is Michael Jordan didn't allow his likeness. Now here's a cool thing. Michael Jordan and Gary Payton apparently, as I was reading up on the game, because I was checking out some of the history, 1994 Midway, all that stuff. They got their own version of the game with them in it, even though it didn't come out originally with them. So there is somewhere on this earth with a Michael Jordan arcade cabinet.
That's got to be worth a ton.
Yeah, that's got to be cool. So Max, we are at your first go, man. Rosie.
Yeah.
Rosie.
I'm I'd be lying if I was going to come here and say I didn't have butterflies in my stomach. It's a little nerve wracking sitting there talking about my rosy cheeks here. And I gotta be honest, I'm a little surprised, this might be farther up in your list, but my Rosie number 4, dude, I'm going with it. Golden Axe, baby. Golden Axe. And
great game.
And I just think it was having that little troll guy and the little bearded man, kind of very similar to you, Kirk, very,
I could have dropped the little jars of magic out for you,
dude, bro. Yeah. And then but when you could hop, it was the first game that I hopped on the little dragon thing, the little lizard, dude, and that changed things for me, and because of that. Every time I was in an arcade, if I had more than $2 worth of quarters, that game was getting to play. You know what I mean? I just had to, and it was in every arcade.
I love that game. I can tell you this: I didn't play it too often in the arcade, but I did own it when I had a Sega Genesis.
Yeah,
it was one of the staples of the Genesis, along with a few other ones. The bad guy, the lead guy, his name was Death Adder. And I remember as a kid, never why is his name Adder? It's the weirdest thing ever. I love that game, kind of like high fantasy, Lord of the Rings type, Conan, really cool game, side scroller, multiple players. That's another one. Yeah. So Andy, did you play that one?
Yes, I did. So that's, again, Max, you said it. Every arcade, it was a law, I think, that had to have Golden Axe in there.
No, it was, yeah.
If it wasn't there,
people
they
did
condemned
jail
the building.
time. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Also a cool intro. Had all the little axes and crazy Chinese words and stuff going around. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I didn't give my criteria, And, no tears shed during this criteria. If I had enough money to play 4 games, what 4 games was I playing?
Right.
And so that was kind of my go-to. And I lived, by multiple arcades. We had the one up I mean, I'm telling you, walking distance. One in Lakeside Mall, which is not far by my house. One in Clearview Mall, which we'd go every Friday. It was the hangout for when we were a kid, and you had to. I mean, you know, which birthed my number one. Right, we're gonna get to that. Birthed it.
So there you go. Golden Axe, man. Hey, we are off to a strong start.
No Crushmores yet. No Crushmores yet. But
nothing happening yet.
So Andy, here we go. What's your next on the mountain? TJ Jazzy Jeff. Who is your Thomas
TJ Jazzy Jeff?
So here it is. If there is a game on my list, the remaining list that has a shot at a Crushmore, it's going to be this one. I don't believe that my Link and my George are Crushmores. With that said, this game took a lot of my money. I can think like how rich, and again, it was my parents' money, but like how much money would I have saved my parents if I had not played this game? Like, where would life be right now if the quarters were not wasted? It's a crazy like alternate.
You wouldn't be a youth pastor. You would be like a scientist or something.
Right, something. Right. There could have been something. But anyway, I digress. Here it is. My TJ Jazzy Jeff, and I just a couple minutes ago I saw it on your screen, but I'm going to go with Rampage. What? I love Rampage so much.
Oh my God.
Dude, it is such a great game that it. And what are you doing? You're just destroying a town. Like that's all you're doing. You're this crazy creature that's punching the side of the building, taking the people out of it. You got to watch not to take the sockets, right, or whatever, because you get electrocuted and you fall off of it. Then you get the helicopters coming shooting at you. There it is. And then they got the movies that are coming out with it, which, you know, we won't talk about that because we're just talking about arcade games. But here it is. Rampage is great. I love when one of my favorite parts is like when the certain buildings, like if you get on top of them and you destroy the roof, they became like a trampoline. There's not much more to. We're not going to talk about that. We're talking about arcade games. So what we're doing, movies was last month, Kirk. We are past that. We're past that.
Yeah.
You say get over it.
But it's just a great game. It's a classic, you know, and they've had like remakes of the game and they've been re-released and things like that. It's one of those ones, another one that, again, with my criteria, if I see Rampage, if I see, you know, that whole like, here's another thing with arcade games. And let me just throw this out there. The whole cabinet, like everything about like the artwork that's on it just makes it interesting. The lights, how the controllers, like all that kind of stuff. There's so much to it that you just don't get with console games or anything like that. That's just there's nostalgia that's involved with it. And Rampage is right up there in my nostalgia, in my childhood, my adolescence when I was playing that game. And it also, again, came out on plenty of other consoles too that you could play that. But I remember at the arcade playing Rampage, and that's why it's my TJ.
Question: monkey, lizard, wolf. Which one?
I was the wolf all day. Every time I will say this: the lizard was my least went to. Like I would be the monkey,
King Kong, and then it was. So here's the thing: it was always King Kong, Godzilla. And then this wolf didn't fit. So I always.
But the wolf was different. Yeah, I went with the wolf because he was just different. He was cool. Like I don't know. There's just something about it. So anyway, yeah. What do you guys think about Rampage?
Solid.
Rampage. Now, look, that is definitely not a game that I thought would make it on this mountain.
Oh man!
Yeah.
Look, it's a good game. It's a great game for its time. It's one of the predecessors of. If it was going to be on anybody's list, it would have been on my list, but it didn't make my list. That's for sure, right? And I, like I said, I got the game here, but this is back in the day, dude. There's so many games. Yeah, I don't know that I ever paid a lot of money to play that game.
Let me say this. My list is definitely going to not be the ones that stand out.
Dude, but I'm shocked because you were like, oh, this game might make somebody else's list.
I thought it was more popular.
Shows his love for the game.
I was really waiting for, dude, there was a couple that was popping in my head.
Like
you were
the
about
Tom Brady Rampage.
Rampage, wasn't it? The goat, huh?
I love it.
There was no goat in this game. There no goat.
Yeah.
No, it would be cool though. But anyway.
Yeah.
Max, is that, I mean,
Yeah. No, I was still thought. You know what I mean? I still thought. No, but like Rampage was always one of those games, man. I just really always wanted to play. It looks like so much fun. And I just built up this expectation in my mind that like it was just going to be the greatest game ever. And I slept over at my friend's house and he had it and I played it and I was just like enormously disappointed. And I just remember, look, and I'm not that guy. I'm not just up here. Like these are real things that happen. I'm not just, Captain Controversy over here. I'm just
well, what I remember most
like
about the game was like they were always they had like the little army guys or whatever. They were trying to shoot you down. And then the bullets were like nothing. Like they were just like poop, 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 like barely anything. Like, yeah, I love. I love that you picked that because I know that there's some nostalgia behind it. I just bet nobody would have thought you were going to do that.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for.
It made like what 85 on top 100, something like that. Like it was definitely
there. You
top,
go.
It's up there.
Yeah, it's in the top 100. Top 100.
Well, it's in my top 4. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. So my turn. TJ Jazzy Jeff. This game is probably not a shock for anybody. If you've been around the Rushmore Show from the beginning, I've mentioned where this game came from, the licensing from this game, at least 3 times, maybe. At least 3 times. I've talked about it. Max, you mentioned Golden Axe. In my brain, I was kind of thinking I'm going to have at least one side-scrolling multiplayer game, and this was the one that I figured was the George of those. And I don't own the rendition that came out on console, but I actually have the first one, and that's Ninja Turtles, baby. So Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game, for me is the best multiplayer, side-scrolling, action fighting game. You're fighting the Foot Clan. You fight all the baddies from the cartoon, whether it's Rocksteady, Bebop. Then you fight them again. Shredder, Baxter Stockman. You fight even Krang. This game was awesome. And listen, we've talked about it before. I brought up Ninja Turtles several times. That my favorite Ninja Turtle is Donatello, and the reason is 1, he's the nerdy, geeky guy, but 2. In all the video games, he had the coolest weapon because he had the reach and he would knock them out. And like in this particular version, without him, you can't pretty much beat it because the arcade game, what was really cool about that one, there's 4 spots and whatever quarter you put in is who you got to play with. And I was always trying to get to the game before somebody got to Donnie. So I put my quarter in. I was always Donatello, and Michelangelo was cool. Raph was. I mean, they're all cool. I always went Donnie. That is my game. TJ Jazzy Jeff, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game by Konami. Yep. So that's it. That's my game.
Great pick.
So 3, baby.
So what I'm interested in, Max, what is your controversial statement around Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? What you got for us?
So if we're being honest here, like my number 3 is Turtles in Time. My TJ Jazzy Jeff.
Hey.
So like I don't know if that's like a diet.
It's a half more, I guess. A half.
Yeah, right. It's got aspartame in it. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost.
It's a little Splenda.
Yeah. It's a Diet Coke with lime thing. Just Turtles in Time. I don't know if I've played, and it may be that when I played, but I just only remember Turtles in Time being in the arcade.
Turtles in Time's dope game, man. Dope game. Love it.
And so Ninja, I mean, I'm at a loss for words. I'm thankful.
That's not easy. First of all, that is not easy to do.
I'm thankful that hey, you ain't lying, bro. And boy, I can talk more times than the clock ticks in a day, boy. I tell you, like, how do you? I have nothing bad to say.
So tell me this: who's your go-to character?
Well, right, Michelangelo was the OG, right?
Party dude.
You gotta go, and like
there is no doubt in my mind that Mikey is your guy. Like I pinned that from the beginning. There's you didn't shock anyone when you said Michelangelo.
Everybody was like, "Oh, he's gonna say Leo."
As much.
Hey, what we got here?
Okay,
63. Solid.
63. That's way too low. Who is voting this?
Yeah, probably Andy with Rampage. Like I didn't mean to like, cut all your praise short for your game there.
No, man, no, I love it. I love it. We're there.
But we are there, and sometimes in life you just gotta take that leap, and just like knock your table over when you're trying to explain your turtles. You just have to sometimes, So that's my TJ Jazzy Jeff, man. Ain't no Uncle Phil throwing that one out. I promise you.
All right.
So we're halfway, Andy. We're halfway, and moving on the mountain. What is your link? Who's linking for you? Part 2. Here we go. Number 2.
Here we go. So now it gets crazy. Okay. Now is when obviously Rampage got a little bit different reaction than I thought it was going to. But these two, I would be shocked if it was a Crushmore. There's no way. And it's Marble Madness. No, I'm just kidding, because it's right behind you. How did Marble Madness, by the way, rank ahead of Ninja Turtles? Anyway, that's crazy. So great game.
Wait, what did you say? What did you say?
Sonic 3D.
It's just Sonic 3D. Yeah.
That's all it is Sonic 3D. But anyway, so let's go to my link. My number 2. This is where it gets different, man. But I'm just going off of my criteria, like the games that I was interested in playing and that I was going to pay money for are going to make my top 4. My number 2. Hydro Thunder. Thunder. I love Hydro Thunder so much. It's so different, right? Like, so obviously, like racing games are so different and everything. But man, when you would sit down on the thing,
Hydro Thunder. Oh my god!
And like you're trying to drift to get that boost, man, and you're gonna hit the ramp every time to try to hit the alternate routes. I love Hydro Thunder so much. It's so much so that like we've gone to arcades or like similar things with my kids. And it's like, if that's there, I'm like, Mom, you're taking care of the kids right now. Daddy's got to play Hydro Thunder. Like I got to get it. Yeah. So I love Hydro Thunder. It's so different than a lot of the arcade games. I don't know if it makes any top 100s. I don't know, but I will say it's obviously my number 2, my second favorite of the arcade games, Hydro Thunder. Not much more I can say about it, but it is a ton of fun. And you feel like you're in it, right? Like you're sitting there in it. Like the other games, like you're side scrolling and you're fighting people and whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. But like this is first person, right? Like you're right here in this. Love it. Hydro Thunder is my link, my number 2 on my Rushmore of arcade games. Thoughts?
Dude, that is a pick that you rushed back lots of memories. I completely forgot about that game. I was thinking of some racing games, Cruising USA, some of those like that. But look, I absolutely love the games that you get on like that, and like you're side by like the motorbike ones. The that one was like a jet ski. But dude, like they're all those games, and you're like hitting ramps, racing tracks, hitting like flips and all that. Those games were fun. One of my favorite memories is one of the motorcycle ones similar to that. I think it was Carson, to be honest. We were at like the movie theater. I think they had it, and she's riding it and she couldn't get the thing to turn. So I'm holding it in the back and moving it like this. And she thought she was driving those things. Those games are so much fun. And they're like almost virtual reality because you're so close to the screen. It's like coming at you.
Right.
Yeah. I respect this pick. I respect it. That's a good choice, dude.
I made up for my Rampage pick, right?
And you totally redeemed yourself. So like I had a neighbor, check this out. And she I had a friend and her mom was dating a guy who ran an arcade or sold arcade games. And so when he would get a new game, he would put it in her garage and they would have these arcade. And Hydro Thunder was that game. So when I tell you I played Hydro Thunder every day for like 190 days, like I kid you not, like Hydro Thunder has a place in my heart. You just unlocked, like I feel like Xbox, bling, like I unlocked a
An achievement unlocked.
An achievement, yes, bro. Achievement unlocked.
He's changing his mountain as we speak. Where he's chiseling a jet ski on it.
Yeah. No, well, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Well, hey, cool. It is what it is. So, Kirk, let's move on to your link. What you got? What's number 2?
All right, man. So this one was probably the hardest out of all of them because there are several, like I mentioned earlier, fighting games that could fit in this criteria. I'm going with the George, in my opinion. There were several renditions of this game, but it was my favorite, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. That is going to be my link. That was my jam. That was like the 5th rendition. They sped it up. They added 4 new characters. They had like a secret code that you could put in, hitting all the buttons at a certain time. You get Akuma. My favorite guy was always Ryu or Blanca. But man, they added like combos really well in this one. They were just, them and Mortal Kombat were kind of going at it for years. And Street Fighter took a more like cartoonish or like animated style, where Mortal Kombat was kind of going for more realism. But these 2 games were it. I really, really thought of 2 ones that I just, gosh, it was just really knocking the door. I'll tell you at the end in case they're not on somebody else's. But those games were rolling. Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, I spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars in. That was the game I can remember as a kid walking in the arcade and the were lined up on the screen and you had to like put your quarter up to get in and always play this kid who was literally from Japan, and he would kill me in like 13 seconds and I'd get so mad. And all those games were really awesome. And then, I got the version, which isn't the super version, it's the turbo version, but all these characters are cool. Ryu or Ken was always my guy, but I always picked Ryu. They started changing the colors and doing all those things, and then they allowed you to pick the bosses, which you couldn't do in the original version. So yeah, I'm going to go with my link. My favorite, it's a very, very, very close between that one and MK and a couple other ones. So link is going to be Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Nice
pick. I love Street Fighter. That whole series of games, fantastic. I was always more of a Street Fighter than Mortal Kombat. I do love Mortal Kombat, but I think I kind of went more on the Street Fighter side of things. And
now, when Mortal Kombat hit number 3, dude, that game was legit. I love number 3 and going on all the Mortal Kombat versions that are on like the new home consoles are just dope. They're bangers. But when you're talking about the original systems, they both were trailblazers in this space. And they both did some really cool things, adding combos and all that. But that was just my favorite one at the time, most nostalgic. Max, I know you've played these games. Which one's your favorite?
Yeah,
you like Street Fighter? Let me just say that because you might have one on your list.
Right. And so I actually own. I'd have to find it. It's like a remake on PlayStation, Street Fighter 2. The Turbo. It's got Akira. What's his name? Akuma. On the cover. Right. But I never.
So Akuma, when he got to the home version, I think they died him down a little bit. But in the arcade, when you put the code in to get him, matter of fact, I remember distinctly like reading it in like Nintendo Power or something. You go to these like championship things, and they wouldn't allow you to play Akuma in competition because he was the secret character. Yeah, but when they added him later, he was pretty cool too.
Looked like a beast, and he looked like a beast. I played with him one time. I only played that version of the game. It's crazy because I've got it for like a greatest hits on PlayStation, but I've only played it once. It was given to me, but I played Street Fighter 2 a ton, and Hadouken all day long, bro. Chun-Li with the leg kick. I was so young though that like. The down and press A a ton of times for the shock with Blanca was easy for me to do.
E Honda with the hands.
Oh, E Honda,
with the legs,
and
Blanca with the electricity. What was cool about that. Every little kid could do those moves.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and like that was such a big deal for like me and having the ability to play with.
Honestly, that's one of the reasons I took one of them off because their combos were just like you had to
Killer Instinct. I already know when you say combo, you're Killer Instinct probably.
Boom. No.
You know, yeah.
You needed a PhD to do the combos, and you had to practice a lot. But it almost took this spot. It's one of my favorites. So
it is. It's a great game. You know, it is. And I love Mortal Kombat more, I think, than Street Fighter because I had it, you know, first, you know, but still great. All three of those games, you know, great. I thought the black cartridge for Killer Instinct did it. You know what I mean? I think that
it's down here too.
You know, and so, but I think it's a great pick, you know. A little shocking that you went with the turbo, I guess, because that's the one, because they had Street Fighter versus, like, what was it? Street Fighter versus like MG. Yeah, amazing, bro. There it is. That's a great game. And that, like, the Street Fighter versus and the, you know, and this, that.
So I only went with this one because I wanted to pick a part two. I wanted to pick one that was sped up because Hyper and Alpha and all the turbo, that was much better, I felt, when they were faster. And then this particular version brought in Akuma and some of the combos, and it brought in a lot of other options to, like, play other characters with what was the Bruce Lee looking guy? And then the guy DJ that did, like, the Jamaican Capoeira and all that, and then Cammy, they brought all those guys in.
Okay.
So I just picked that version because if I was going to go most nostalgic, that very first one, I remember playing the very first one, and you know, and then he went to Champion Edition, he went to all these things. But if I was going to have a sit box in my basement, I want this.
There you go.
Here's a question. Because this tells a lot about kind of like with the. And maybe you mentioned this a little bit, but Max, I'm interested to get your input on this. If you're picking a character playing not Mortal Kombat, I'm sorry. If you're picking a Street Fighter character, who's your go-to character? It's kind of like picking Mikey for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It says a lot about you. So who was your go-to character?
Yeah. So, like, I always picked him first, but I always stopped picking him because I wasn't good with him. Like, he was my go-to, but okay, so Chun-Li was, like, who I played with more often than not. Good pick. You know, and, like, because the kick was just, she was easy. She was easy to play with. She was fast. She jumped high the back. You know, I just felt like
the upside down helicopter. Oh, that's right.
And I only hit that move when I button mashed. You know, I really wasn't. But I wanted to be good with Ryu. I just wasn't.
Yeah. Ryu guy. Everybody wanted to be Ken. I always took Ryu.
I went different, man. Obviously, if you can tell from my arcade games, I pick a lot different in a lot of situations.
Stretchy guy, I bet. You look like a stretchy guy.
I didn't like Dalsim. No, Zangief was cool, but no. But
if you could pull off that freaking move, that was the hardest move in the game. It took like 3/4.
I went Vega every time. Vega was my go-to. I like Vega.
I forgot about Vega.
Cool when you could pick him later. Yep, and so you had to go into later versions. Vega was
you
really
knock
cool.
his mask off. Yeah, I forgot about Vega. Yo, dude.
Vega could jump off of the side of the screen too.
Dude,
like he did like all that stuff. Yeah, he was really cool.
I forgot about Vega. Dude, I played Vega a ton.
Now, wait, I bring to bring this up to you about Rampage. This movie is
I was hoping you'd do
probably the worst video game movie ever. We almost did a Rushmore on worst video games ever. This would have been my George. 2 reasons. One, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Right, there it is.
He plays the American.
Are you men enough to fight with me?
Anyone who opposes me will be destroyed.
Colonel, you can't!
Oh, yes, I can. Just take the hostages out. If I'm not topside in 15 minutes, evacuate without me.
He plays Guile, which was an amazing
USA.
Well. The number 2, they had the dad from Addams Family as M. Bison. That's just terrible. Who casted this movie? So yeah, it was that one next to Super Mario Brothers with the Koopas. Nostalgically, I'll watch it just to laugh. But it's a terrible movie. Terrible.
Yeah. No, it's terrible. You're right. Like, you're right. And you're
all right. So look, Max, man, I'm in suspense because I know honestly, I didn't think you'd go Golden Axe, right? And Turtles in Time doesn't really shock me too much. I'm anxious to hear what you got for Link and George. So who's number 2?
So Lincoln, look, I battled between these two. So my George, I don't think you guys are gonna let me pick. So I've got another one for George. I'll tell you what it is. But I think you might say, well,
you make your rules. It's yours. Yours, like, we let it go.
I hear you. Well, you'll see when I get there. But for number 2, my Link, I'm gonna have to go Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
Come on, thank you. Nice.
I'm
Great
just gonna have to go. And then my lineup, was always Mega Man, of course, Spider-Man, and War Machine. I just think you got the Mega Man was kind of your low but big hitter. Spider-Man was just all over good. You know what I mean? And War Machine was just a tank with heavy hitting.
Bro, when he brought that cannon out.
Bro, dude, and Mega Man jumped out with all the birds and the guns and it, man,
that game was very close to being on my Fighters game too. That's one of those 4 or 5 that were, and I love that game. That game, graphically, the game just flowed well. The idea that they mixed 2 completely different worlds. All the Capcom versus games or Marvel versus games, love them all. That one was a great one. That is a good choice. Good choice.
Is that the original multiverse?
I remember playing with Wolverine a lot.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Yep. Okay. Wolverine was great, but I was just a Spider-Man head.
Yeah, I hear that.
Wolverine was great.
That was
Venom was great.
Yeah.
Great pick. Marvel versus Capcom. They had that.
Wolverine was in the X-Men versus Capcom, huh? He went in the Marvel.
Yeah,
was
he
in both?
I can't Marvel versus Capcom.
Cool.
He's got to be.
Yeah.
Oh, I know X-Men had a whole bunch of. So it was all the X-Men with Gambit and Wolverine.
I think they're all in Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
They're in all that one too. Okay, cool.
The second Marvel vs. Capcom 2.
It's been such a long time since I played those. That is great game, great pick.
Yeah. And if I'm wrong, I'm sure the comments will let me know.
Yeah, that's fine. It's okay.
Oh yeah. All right, so George, I have a feeling these 3 Georges are going to shock everybody.
Wow.
Everybody. So we really don't have a Crushmore yet, right? We don't have one yet.
We have a diet.
And we're rolling right through. Come on.
Okay, so this one is not making your list. I know it. It won't. But and it's okay. It's fine. But I think I spent if I add up the time that I spent on this game, I might have spent a year of my life on this game. It was always. Whoa. And I remember at the bowling alley, this is where I would go. The bowling alley in Mandeville, we would always go. And I wouldn't bowl. I don't bowl. Family, friends, it's y'all go bowl. That's fine. That's cool. What am I going to do? I'm going to hang out in the arcade. And what game am I going to waste most of my life with? None other than The Simpsons arcade game. The Simpsons arcade game was so much fun, dude. I like it. It's so great. So it's a side scroll game. Okay, so it is a side scroll game.
It's basically Ninja Turtles.
It's basically that. But I would always be Bart Simpson. You're always Bart Simpson because you ride a skateboard the whole time and you use it as a weapon.
I played it. Okay, yeah.
So you're jogging your memory.
The Beavis and Butthead game kind of similar.
Right. But it was so first of all, I love the Simpsons, cartoon as a kid. And going back to song intros, right? Or TV show intros.
Yeah.
That was one of my picks. I'd have to remember where it fell, but it was one of my top 4 there. And it's so great. I love that game though. The game was so fun because it was multiplayer. First of all, it's impossible if you didn't have multiplayers. There's no way, because they had the same amount of villains. They had the same amount of difficulty if you were one player or if you were however many players you could have. So it was always
you could play 4. You could play Marge.
I think it's 4. Marge. You could play Homer,
Bart, and Maggie, right?
Right. You could be all of them. There was just.
I remember Marge hit him with the hair.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Homer used donuts and there was just different things. But Bart was my go-to. Bart was the go-to. I was playing as him every time. And I remember there's levels where you're on the hot air balloon and you're in the Duff's bar or whatever the bar is. You're in that bar. And man, just a great game. I know that it doesn't, what's surprising to me is that I mentioned earlier that I didn't Google my stuff here, and I didn't, but while one of you were talking a minute ago, I was just out of curiosity, I just Googled top arcade games and it actually showed up on the list. So it's other people like it or have played it before. So which makes it a little bit surprising to me. So my number one, my George, The Simpsons arcade game. So much time was spent. So many quarters were spent playing that game. It was a difficult game. But it was so addicting. It's so fun. Love that.
So
game.
I don't remember the hint you gave me. I don't remember the hint at all. But we were talking about arcade games. You mentioned some couple things. and I knew that you were either picking Turtles or Simpsons. And in my list, I had both of those games because they were both good games. They were both very similar. And if I remember correctly, in the arcade in the Slidell Mall, they were back to back or like right next to each other. Like they were really close. But those two games, again, I wanted to try and pick a plethora of games that I would want to play. When I picked Turtles, I essentially eliminated Simpsons. And the Simpsons game, it's definitely in the top 25. Like, I mean, that's big too, because that's like 5 of each genres. It's in the top 5 of that genre of just multiplayer, open world, kind of not open world, but kind of like side scroller, defeat the boss at the end kind of thing, shovel lots of quarters in with friends. It's a really good game. Yeah, I love it. One of the things I remember distinctly is Marge getting shocked and her skull goes all the way up to the top of the hair. Right. That was a big deal. Like it's a trivia question or something. Does Marge have a different skull? And it shows that picture. Like, it goes all the way up.
There you go. The Simpsons made my George. So
wow.
Kirk, what are you?
I think we're going to make it, dude. I think we're really going to make this thing because I don't think unless Max pulls off one. Here's the deal, because I know y'all are going to pick my game. I know Max isn't picking my game. So paint the picture. I am going to Buffalo Wild Wings probably every single day of my life. Every single day of my life for about 4 years. And there are 3 really amazing, awesome games in that freaking Buffalo Wild Wings that almost all 3 of them made my almost all of them made my list. There was a bowling game, which is amazing. And then there's the other 2. I am going none other than a Golden Tee. Golden Tee 2005 is my George. I spent thousands. I should have just bought this. I should have put an order in and had that delivered.
Should have bought one.
Actually, I tried. Me and the guys, we got together, like, how much these things cost? They were like $4,500 at the time. I was like, dude, we keep shoveling money. Like, we would show up at the bar. Obviously, this is pre-Jesus. So we're showing up at the bar, we're watching games, and you're getting our beers, whatever. And all of a sudden, the game's getting towards the end, and we would all go over to the Golden Tee game. And it was a 4-player game. They had 7 courses. Our scores, I remember our scores were nationally ranked. We were on there for the national connection because it connected to the Ethernet or whatever. And we played this game. I literally put quarters in that game every single day of my life, probably 3 years. When we talked about arcade games, I knew it was on there. And it was really hard because it's kind of a different game. So it eliminated some ones that probably are going to be on a lot of other people's mountains. But this is my favorite game. If I was to put it in my house, I don't know that I'd get a lot of things done.
A major carpal tunnel.
Yeah. And I remember, there was all kinds of ways. Like you'd be like, and then like hitting it this way. I remember there were guys in the bar that would start like 15 feet back and they'd come running and slam it. Stop. Dude, it was crazy. So anyways, Golden Tee, I picked the Golden Tee 4, like FORE, 2005 version, because that's the one that was at Buffalo's. And there you go. Golden Tee. Wow. I've got the little home version, and this thing probably hadn't been played in a long time because it's definitely not the same. I remember when I bought it, it was like $20, or it might have been gifted to. Actually, I think I got this like as a Christmas present or something one year, and it is not the same. It is definitely not the same. So
WD-40 would be all right.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. So as soon as you said Buffalo Wild Wings, I immediately knew it was Golden Tee. I knew that's where I feel like we've talked about this before. Like
probably.
Great pick. Love it. Respect it. Can't say much more about it.
I think the world wants to know, Captain, were you the least of your friends there nationally ranked, or were you the worst?
I think depending on the course, it was me and Ohio and Kyle and all those guys. We were all out there, and depending on the course, we all had different kind of rankings and wherever. I was actually better at the other game. The bowling and the hunting game. But so there you go. Anyways. Yeah, here we go. Right. So look, we're at our George for you, Max. Max, man, Come on, man.
Right.
I can't wait to hear this.
Okay, so this was a game that every Friday and Saturday for years we'd go, and there's quarters lined up. You know, it just happened to be the crowd that was there, and I was terrible at first, but I just loved the game, and so I just played and got really good, and started actually. I would build crowds around me when I would play it, and I think
it was
that's what did it. And,
Dance Dance Revolution, right?
Well, it was Pump It Up. It was Pump It Up too. It was Pump too, and like I went from like not being able to do the regular easy modes to rocking super hard levels at times 3 speed, and then I remember working on the like being able to do both of them at the same time, like you could do
Let's go.
And I was the youngest of all the people who would go. I was actually like 12, 13. All the guys playing, they were like 19, 20. I mean, they were like grown men, and so it was nice to see, to be able to go in there and get good enough to just like kind of shut these dudes down, and I just loved it. And that was it. And so I do have another, just in case you were going to say, oh, that's not really an arcade.
No, that's real, dude. That is it.
And
I love it.
And like I remember,
look, you barely said it though. You barely said it. Announce exactly which game you're picking, because there's a couple of them that I feel there.
Oh yeah, so it's actually Pump It Up Premiere 2. It's
Pump It Up Premiere 2. Absolutely.
Yeah. And like there was a song called Vook that was really hard, and not a lot of people could do it. And I remember the first time I got a D on it, and I was like, I passed it, and like nobody was around then, man. And like, it was like it was spectator sport for me. You know what I mean? It was a ton of fun. And so I remember being at the arcade all day long. They would dog me. They would like, kind of, trash me for even wanting to play. And it sort of sparked, it built a competitive edge. It taught me to overcome. It really instilled in me like the ability to overcome in the midst of adversity. And I think more than anything, that's why, it boosted my confidence. And I went forth and did a lot of other things with that confidence that I gained from playing that game.
I never knew that game could be so deep and so life-changing.
Right. And it is. It's so influential. I'm ready
to run through a wall right now. Look, when you were talking, Andy leaned in like this. And I know Andy's envisioning you doing all the moves.
Yo, let's go to Dave & Buster's and rock it, bro. They got it there. Let's get it.
Dude. But, and then the second thing that I wanted to say is, as you were talking, I almost wrote a screenplay for an 80s movie in my head. I was like, this is it. This is it. And dude, all kinds of like 80s and 90s jams in the background. Dude,
I tell you what, that montage of you training and failing, but keep getting back up.
Little background.
Yeah, and like take a couple strolls up, a couple of
Rocky
stairs.
montage.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. When you said Dance Dance Revolution, Andy, it immediately hit me, and I was like, oh, that's why he thinks it's not going to be. It's going to be a game just like that.
Yeah, I thought DDR was trashed out.
Well, I just said it as a joke. Like, I totally didn't think that's the type of game you were going for. Like, you shocked me. You shocked me.
Yeah,
yeah.
Andy, look, you shocked me. I thought you were going to come with some kind of.
Andy shocked the world today.
I thought that's how you were going to be totally different. Yeah, some kind of music game.
No, but yeah. So
dude, these are great lists. No Crushmores.
We did it.
We did it.
Is that a good thing?
We're going to have a segment coming up this summer where the whole goal is to try and on the fly pick the best list without Crushmoring it.
Right.
And we did it even thinking about it. That's crazy awesome.
Wow.
So man, that's
there was kind of like a half. I mean, I guess it's not a Crushmore.
Well, it was two separate teams. It was two separate games.
Turtles and Time is way different. Yeah,
you're right.
But yeah, same genre, same space. Honestly, I thought, Max, you were going to pick a fighting game. I thought Mortal Kombat might have been one of them. So
yeah, and like
that's where I was like, oh, if I'm going to Crushmore with anybody, it's going to be somebody's going to pick a fighting game. And then as I was going through the 17 in my head, I went with that. But look,
now out of curiosity, real quick, Max, you said that you had another George lined up just in case we were to debate that one. Yeah. I think people want to know. I think we can't leave it out there in the air. What is your second George that you had on standby?
Well, I think we're just gonna have to talk about the Benjamins.
We're gonna talk about that in the next segment.
Oh, so I think we're gonna have to. I think
because in our next segment we're bringing back an old faithful, right?
Yeah,
we're going to talk about our
I've got to go this one.
All about the Benjamins. And so since we are talking about all about the Benjamins, I'm not going to give you my list of extra games that may be on some other people's list. You may be picking some up behind me, top 100 that they're rolling through. But we're going to jump into our next segment, all about the Benjamins.
Let's get it.
All right, Rushmore community, it is our time for our second segment. You know how we do it around here. We always bring in a little bit extra, and today we haven't done it in quite some time. Last time I can remember it is back in our music month, and we're going to bring in a segment. It's our way of doing some honorable mentions and bringing on some others. And we kind of know that historically, Benjamin Franklin may have been the next guy that they thought about putting on the mountain. So our number 5 is Benjamin. So Benny. Now, look, Andy, who is, you've been thinking real hard. We're going to add a 5th one. It's your top 5 and nothing more today. So how where are you going with your number 5?
Okay, so there are so many ways that I could go with this. We could list off 100 games that don't make it. No, to me, and I don't know what y'all's Benjamin is, but nobody's talking about Galaga. Nobody's talking about Pac-Man. Nobody's talking about, Centipede, all these different games. And hey, they're cool. They're fine. But, there's been better things that have happened since then. A lot of times we hold on to like these old school ones, and we're like, they're supposed to be so great, and they're fun, they're cool, but there's much better. If we're just being honest, there's much better. So, and again, no disrespect to those games, they paved the way. But step aside, old man. It's time. It's time for us to take over.
Not talking about you, Kirk. Not talking about you.
Yeah,
no.
I do have Centipede behind me, so that's perfect.
I'll say this, and I mentioned it last week in my characters, and this isn't my pick, but Donkey Kong starting out in the arcade game, like the old school, like Mario was Donkey Kong, that whole thing, like that was cool. I remember playing that game a lot as a kid, but again, that didn't make my arcade games because it's great, it's cool, but it's like 1981 when that came out or whatever. So here's what I'm gonna do. This is. We made it through our top 4 without a Crushmore. But my number 5, my Benjamin, might have ruined it. It's actually a Crushmore. So I don't know if we'll have to consult the rule books, the judges. Does this count as still no Crushmores? But my number 5, my Benjamin, he's on fire! Oh! NBA Jam. I love NBA Jam. I played it, and I mentioned in my criteria, and it's why it didn't make my top 4 is because I didn't play it in the arcade, so it didn't necessarily fall into my criteria, but it's such a great game that I had to find a way to get it in there. I always played as the Indiana Pacers because I was Reggie Miller,
baby.
Automatic from three. I was always the Pacers.
And Reggie Miller and
I didn't even care who else. I let computer play the other guy. Pass it to me at Reggie Miller, and I'm shooting the 3.
And I pass it to me, hitting the 3.
Right. I said that all the time. That was I didn't say that. But
stop. Look.
But other teams that I played as, and I picked a lot. I didn't know a lot about basketball. I just I knew that you had to get the ball in the hoop, right? Like I knew that, right? Enough about the game to figure it out. But I picked a lot of my teams based on just how they looked. And I started following those teams in real life because of NBA Jam. So my teams were always the Timberwolves. I don't know why. They just look cool. Like the Wolf. I mentioned Rampage. The Wolf is always who I went with. Like Wolf.
Alpha.
I picked the Miami Heat. That was always just a cool logo, right? Like I just liked that whole thing. And you mentioned them, the Magic. The Magic was just, it was really cool. Man, I loved NBA Jam. Played it a lot more on the Super Nintendo. So that's again why it didn't make my number 4. But again, just such a great game. You can't disrespect NBA Jam. I've even re-downloaded it as an app on my phone because they got it now. Like, I'll play NBA Jam now. Like, I don't want the realistic basketball. Like, give me 16 front flips before I slam dunk, right? And
here's a funny story. You know, this is the 3rd basketball arcade game made by Midway. The second one is also a freaking classic that is off the wall. Arch Rivals. You remember this game where they were like punching them and taking the ball away? You beat the crud out of each other?
No. That sounds fantastic, though. Okay. All right. So that's my Benjamin. It's a Crushmore. I don't know if it's actually going to count. So anyway, Kirk, where are you going to go? Look, missed it?
I've got a list here of quite a few games, but there's one game that I literally was juggling on and off until probably about 30 minutes before we filmed, and I decided to go with NBA Jam, to be honest. And reason being was because I had already taken a Buffalo Wild Wings game. And I am going with Big Buck Hunter.
Big Buck, come on.
Dude, Big Buck Hunter was my shooting games was it. Well, I was actually thinking of a bunch of different shooting games. You know, reload, like all those games,
Time Crisis,
all those games. You had the pedal, but this one, dude, this game, honestly, Max, this was my pump it up game. Me and my buddy Brent would play this game at Buffalo's, and I remember the little kids coming to watch us, and it would be like, boom, 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 and they'd be gone. And be like, how the heck did you do that? And like,
tough game.
We were so good at this game. It was insane. We would go perfect score. Like you had five, if I remember correctly, there was 5 different areas in like 4 different places. So you go 20, and the in between each one had a bonus, and we would perfect score all the way through all of them and several times. And I remember being late after the bar closed. After Buffalo's is closed, they're putting chairs up. I still have a beer on top of the game and playing this game until I ran out of quarters.
Pumping it up, you know.
It was ridiculous how much I played Big Buck Hunter and Golden Tee. Silver Strike was also fun. I mentioned that one, but I didn't want to give away my Benjamin. I knew I was going to kind of do it, but the Big Buck Hunter, me and my buddy Brent would go at it. Like that game, I remember forever. It was Brent's initials and my initials on like the whole game, the whole thing. And that was nationally ranked stuff too. They had all these tournaments. We'd show up at Buffalo's to play in the tournaments. It was crazy.
That's great.
That's going to be my Benjamin Big Buck Hunter. Now, look, I haven't played it in easily 10 years. I show up here. A buddy of mine asked me to go to the bowling alley here. The bowling alley here has a freaking huge like video game arcade room, and they have a Big Buck Hunter there. And I was like, oh, I'm going to play this. So I go in and put my money in, and the screen starts freaking out. Takes my money, and I'm like, no. So I thought I was going to get to play it. It was all broke. But yeah, if I was to round out my basement arcade, Big Buck Hunter would be downstairs. Yep. There you go. So
you talked about putting your initials on there. Man, my favorite thing to do was putting Pooh as my initials. I put it all the time. Every time that was my name. I was like, I'm not putting my initials, but Pooh. There you go.
Pooh. Solid. Pooh. Yeah.
Solid Pooh.
Yeah. So Brent would be BBP and I would be KPP. So there you go.
Oh yeah.
I'd be able to just fill out Max there. Yeah. And dude, my stepmom, man, owned Mr. Jim's Pizza, right? So we were in a pizza shop. Growing up, I was in there a lot, and we had Big Buck Hunter in the pizza shop.
Nice.
And I was terrible at it. It's a hard game. And we had Tekken in there too, right? Tekken was fire.
Another one of those fighting games right there. Another one of those fighting games.
Love playing with King. Law was great. Anyway, just incredible. Great pick. So my number 5, my George here, my Giorgio, my Jorge.
Benjamin.
My bad, dog. My bad.
Your other George. Your other George. Who's
Right. So my George Jr. My George Jr.
Yeah.
This is all about the Benjamins. Cut back. All about the Benjamins. Pick. There you go. Soul Calibur 2.
Oh, okay.
Soul Calibur, and the reason why is because it had one of those. It had factions, right? You pick a you go in, you create your little code or whatever. You create your sign-in code for this game or whatnot, and you pick a faction, and then every time you play, you enter it in your code, and you got to build towards either the red or the blue or just like everything else divided red and blue, right? That just, but you go in and I'd play with Killick, right? He had the pole, and like, man, like I just loved going and coming in every time and seeing that we took over this, at 49% to 51%. I don't know, just fighting back and forth with, building this faction with people that I didn't know. It was just like, I would spend so much money, playing, and all my friends and the crowd, like, there you go. All my friends played and we'd go, we'd each play and just build and gain this faction. And it was a camaraderie thing, maybe, cause like I wasn't the best at the game, but I played it a ton. It was a ton of fun. I played it more than any, other than Pump It Up, I played that one more than any other game.
Great game, great Benjamins. We talk about our Benjamins, man. So
nice.
It's all about it,
dude. I love Soul Calibur. It was, dude. I obviously own the Spawn version for Xbox, the original Xbox.
Yeah.
I haven't played my Xbox in quite some time. I got the Red Ring of Death years ago. That grew up there is just for show right now, but. Yeah, I love that game. It's amazingly fun. So
yeah.
So there's some shockers that still did not make the list. Not a single person picked Mortal Kombat as one of their games. So like Mortal Kombat's not there. We didn't have Double Dragon. Double Dragon.
Okay. So look, here you go. Let me throw them out. Out there. So I had some fighting games: Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat 1 through whatever it is now. I think 1 through 3 would be the arcade version.
Those weren't games, yeah.
Marvel vs. Capcom, Darkstalkers, Samurai Showdown. Samurai Showdown was such
I love Samurai Showdown.
I don't even.
That was where you fought, but you had the swords, and you had a guy like Ryu that he would.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah. You had the big, huge guy that had like the mace and
Earthquake. Earthquake was his name.
Oh yeah,
I love that game.
Oh, Samurai Showdown. I played all these games on the console.
Darkstalkers, which was basically in the same kind of like game as X-Men versus X-Men versus Capcom. It was very similar to that, but it was all like Frankenstein and vampires and werewolf. That was a cool game. Killer Instinct 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Tekken, Virtua Fighter. When Virtua Fighter came out.
Virtua Fighter.
Dude, Virtua Fighter was so cool. So that's some of the fighting games. And then what about the X-Men game that was like Ninja Turtles and The Simpsons? That game was awesome, right? Do you remember this multiplayer? You fought like side scroller. It was really, really cool.
Was it just X-Men? There was another one.
I think it was just X-Men, if I remember correctly.
Rise of the Sentinels was one, or no.
Oh, it might have been that. So look, here's some other side scrollers. You mentioned Double Dragon. Bad Dudes, man. Bad Dudes. Altered Beast. You mentioned Golden Axe. Final Fight. Yeah, we named a couple. Some of the driving games. Cruising USA and
Cruising Exotica was the best one.
A lot of games. We had already mentioned a few of them. Oh yeah, there you go. But the T2 shooting game was freaking awesome. Mm-hmm. That cop game was pretty cool. Yeah. Time Crisis.
One of the worst ones, Metal Slug. Come on, man.
Yeah, and Metal Slug came up just a little while ago. So look, those are all some good games. Good games, man. It has been a blast, man. Arcade classics, kind of bringing up that nostalgia. Hey, honestly, Max, you shocked me. I thought you were going to go with a whole lot more newer games. You had some classics in there, man. I love that. And then Andy, you didn't shock me one bit. Honestly, the Hydro Thunder got me a little bit. The Hydro Thunder got me a little bit because honestly, I thought you were going to go with, instead of NBA Jam, you were going to go with Max's Capcom game because you were so hype on it. But
here's the other thing. What about games like, and I know like maybe they don't count as arcade games, but at the arcade, you got like Skee Ball, you got Pop-A-Shot, you got Whack-A-Mole. Man,
dude,
you got all these fun ones, man.
I tried to perfect the speed of receiving the basketball to getting it off, to try and have like this circle of ball just doing this into the net.
Take the balls from the other game next to you. Jeez.
Taking him from the little kid next to me and shooting.
What about the punching bag that would just test your strength? You know what I mean?
Dude,
like
I was terrible. I was so weak. So weak. Or the hammer thing.
Hammer? Yeah. Anyway.
Now wait, here's a cool thing. One of the things that I was going to bring up, the best cabinet ever that I've ever seen, the best cabinet. I remember playing, this is going to date me, Max. I'm old, right? So I'll be 44.
I'm not trying to date you.
I'll be 44 in August. Here you go. You're trying to date me? Wow. I mean, gosh, you're married. You just had a kid. Jeez, come on, man. Right? Congratulations on the little one.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Getting that walk going.
Getting there, bro. Getting that walk. You know, it needs to be paying them bills.
Proud dad, man. You're gonna be playing games soon.
I'm already tossing, balls at him and whatnot, and he can't catch him. Got marks.
As I digress, I remember as a kid going to Catfish Charlie's, and the game that was in the lobby was the most, like, the largest cabinet ever, and it was Tron. Dude, you would walk into this, you stood up in this whole like enclosure, and it had one of those track balls, and every time you moved it, you would pinch your hand like it was the worst ball ever. You're like, right? You play that whole game. But yeah, a lot of cool games, a lot of nostalgia. I played most of my games at the mall and the bowling alley. So there you go.
And Buffalo Wild Wings, apparently. So
well, that was in my older days when I should have been doing something like, better with my time. But yeah, those are great. Those are great times.
You live and you learn.
Great episode today, guys. Max, thank you for joining us today. Man, it was a pleasure to have you on. We're going to have you on again soon.
So much fun.
Hey, we're really close. In 2 weeks, we have our 6-month special. We've made it half of a year of the Rushmore Show. Very excited for that. You guys stay tuned. Make sure you're following. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're liking our stuff and you're hitting the bell and everything, knowing when we're posting everything. Next week, we've got another week of video games. Kirk, let them know about it. What are we doing next week?
So we have another new guest, a good guy, a good friend of mine. He was a student of mine here at Atlanta School of Ministry. He is a staple at our family night out events that we have at our house. One of my great friends, Joseph Sadar. He's got his own YouTube channel as well, and it is rocking. I think he just passed 10,000 subs. He does prophetic word on there, and he's going to jump on here with us and do Rushmore of Nintendo 64 games.
I am so pumped for that episode, man. This is
be exciting.
Woo! That's good. That's going to be the most difficult one for me in 64.
Oh, mine's already done. That one was easy.
Gosh,
easy peasy. That might be my easiest one.
Wow. Anyway, so that's next week. Hopefully you guys are ready for that one. And we'll be wrapping up video game month. Man, it seems like it flew by after May being 5 episodes. It feels like we need more time on video games. But
hey, we're almost in July. Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so it's been great. It's been great. So, yeah, like I said, make sure you like, make sure you're sharing, make sure you're commenting. Rushmore Show community, you guys have been doing amazing in the comments. Let us know. Hey, do you agree with me about Rampage, or am I still the only person on Team Rampage here?
All right, Andy, we are at the end of the show, and you know how we always end it.
This is the Rushmore Show, where it's all about your top 4
and nothing more.
Peace!